Have you ever seen Bigfoot? When I was young, my family was in the high desert. That night we saw some slow-moving lights in the night sky. Very bright and very slow. They were far off in the mountain area, probably 30 miles away. Even though we heard no noise, we figured they were helicopters, though they were very high in the sky. Later that night, around 4 in the morning, there was a loud noise right outside the trailer, somewhat like a human scream, but not right. The trailer, a very heavy one, started to shake side to side, bouncing off the wheels, almost turning over. My dad yelled and grabbed his rifle and we all jumped out of the trailer. There was no moon or fire to see by, but the stars were very bright, and we saw a very tall and large, shaggy figure running very fast off into the bush. In a flash, it was gone. We all were a little rattled by what had happened, but finally got some more rest. The next morning, we found damage on the side of the trailer, like someone was pushing on the side of the trailer. We also found a 5-gallon jerrycan of water that had been attached to the finder of the trailer, damaged. It had 5 long ripped in the side, like some long, strong fingers had torn so hard at the can it had ripped right into it. Needless to say, we loaded right up and got out of there. Sightings in the USA occur pretty much daily. There are hundreds, if not thousands every year. However, not everyone who has a sighting reports it, and out of all those who do report their sighting, there is no one place to file reports. Maybe. It was the fall of 1992. I was driving back up to Vermont. It was the wee hours of the morning, well after midnight. People who live in a suburban or urban area have absolutely no idea just how dark it gets out in the country without light pollution. Pitch black. All you can see is the stars in the sky. I was driving north on US Route 7. I hit Glastonbury Mountain, which is one of the creepiest areas in southern Vermont. The highway rises and then drops. As I come over the rise and my headlights come down on the road, I see it. There's a shadowy form crossing the road. It's huge, easily 7 or 8 feet tall. It could have been the front end of a moose or a bear, but walks like a human or a primate, not an animal. I'm going at least 55 miles per hour. I slam on my brakes. My 1981 Honda Civic slides to a stop. I throw it in reverse and spin around backwards in a reverse bootlegger. I'm sweeping the woods with my headlight high beams. But whatever it was long gone. At this point it occurs to me that being parked across the lane of a US highway, even in the middle of the night, isn't the smartest idea ever. Nor is scanning the woods for some creature in the middle of the night. Glastonbury Mountain is infamous for a series of 5 disappearances between 1945 and 1950. I have no desire to be the person who restarted them in 1992. I steer back onto the road and continue my journey to my parents' house a few towns up the road. Before I saw this, I was skeptical. I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I used to make fun of the people who did. Now I can't anymore. I'm not entirely sure if it was indeed what people call a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but one thing's for sure. About 8 years ago I saw a very large creature when I was camping in upstate New York, and it did not seem bear-like or deer-like. The thing was quite far in the distance, sort of blocked out by a ton of trees, but I could see that it was walking fully erect, just like a human would, only it must have been at least 8 feet tall. I did manage to snap a picture, but you can barely see a thing because the creature was too far away and hiding behind an extremely dense wooded area. So yay, I have no other conclusions to make other than maybe it was a large bear walking around on its hind legs, but the way it was walking and swaying its arms, and although I had to squint to truly see it, I am fairly sure it was indeed a Bigfoot. Needless to say, I was stunned and bewildered, but it soon vanished deep into the forest before I could get a good focused shot on it. Could it have been that my mind was playing tricks on me? Sure, I mean when you see something you don't understand, especially deep in the woods, your mind automatically screams Bigfoot. For all I know, it was just a bear. But even though I try to be as logical as I can about things like this, Jay can't deny that there was something off about that supposed bear. So if you want my honest answer, then yes, I believe that really was Bigfoot, and that I had a real encounter with a creature I had assumed was purely mythological. Well, I can tell you now, I still have my doubts, but one thing's for sure, Bigfoot ain't as implausible as say vampires, or werewolves. There is a high probability that they exist, and plenty of reasons to believe in that probability. So that's my Bigfoot encounter I did a few weeks ago. I was at the creek at the back of my suburban neighborhood that backs up to the woods. I like to go down there to watch the beavers, deer, and reflect. I was a bit sad that day and needed to let the tears flow. I stopped crying when I felt eyes on me, and I made eye contact with a 8 to 9 foot hairy being with no neck, very muscular, humanoid squished face, big blue eyes, slim, short tail. The hair was dark tan and kinda short, smooth looking on the body, a bit longer on the head to the neck. It was maybe 30 feet away across the creek, and I noticed the height when a huge buck was walking behind it. I think it had been watching me for a few minutes and walked away gracefully. Its presence felt gentle and seemed curious and concerned for me. I was in shock, kinda scared, and I left. Also, deer run away usually when they see humans, so I found it interesting that it wasn't afraid to be close to this giant being. I study a lot about the other humanoid beings that used to live with Homo sapiens, and I never felt like they were really extinct. This was kinda a situation I felt I attracted. I live in a wooded area in the mountains. One night I'm outside saying prayers on my deck. Directly in front of me, about 40 yards, is a neighbor's house with a floodlight on. The light, visible to me, covered approximately 30 feet going towards me from the back wall of the house. While looking down peacefully, I got startled because of the sound of something loud. There is this huge person running on 2 legs away from the house towards me. She took 3 big strides, then turned to the right 90 degrees. After about 3 big strides, she was out of the light's view. After that, I could hear her feet running in total darkness, effortlessly traversing uneven ground. She is 9 tall, very coordinated. She runs as if she is part of nature. Not super thick, yet strong, definitely upright, on 2 legs for the duration of the sighting. Plus, when she ran through the darkness, the same sounds of loud feet crashing could be heard for the 50 or so yards until she was out of sound. I hike in the area I'm referencing, and being a decent athlete, college football, I can tell no human being could ever cover the ground this creature covered in the time it did. No, but once when I was about 12, I was spending the night at my friend's house, and we were both in his bed, and at 1 a.m. or so, all of a sudden the bed started shaking. I wake up, look at my friend who is all the way at the other end of the bed across from me, sound asleep. We slept Hamburg style, if that makes any sense, with our feet sticking off the ends because we didn't want to be gay or something by sleeping together lengthwise. So I'm like, okay, what the hell? Look over at the dog, and the dog is all the way in the corner of the room. So there's nobody around, and all of a sudden the bed started shaking. Freaky, and my friend's grandfather had literally died about a week earlier, and my friend said he had been hearing strange things. Doors closing, creaking when there shouldn't be any creaking. It was spooky as hell. And before anybody suggests it, no, it wasn't any kind of sleep hypnosis or sleep hallucination. I had fully awoken and was looking around the edge of the bed, completely conscious and awake, to find the source of the shaking. Nothing was there, yes, but I did not realize what I saw until just recently. In hindsight, I believe I had at least 2 encounters in North America and at least 5 in Australia. I saw 2 dead ones up close in the Myakka State Park in Florida. I think they had a family fight, and 2 ended up dead. All the palm trees in the area were twisted off, around each body. I saw 2 or 3 live ones up close in Australia. I could have touched them, except my friends thought the hair pile was just a couple of dead animals, so we kept going, only to have these hairy lumps talk and laugh at us as we went down the next waterfall. I had other encounters where I saw footprints or found a lair, but did not actually see them. I think they are a relative of Australopithecus robustus, the forest-dwelling cousin to our more gracile ancestor, or maybe a Homo habilis relative. We know they left Africa from findings in the Caucasus, and the Hobbit on Flush Shore does look similar. Yes, in 2012, in the forest off Alsea Deadwood Highway, up mountain from Alsea, Oregon. I was hiking along through a timber company's land when I almost ran into it. Or it almost ran into me. 8 feet tall, black hair all over, dark grey skin like a gorilla. I froze in terror. It turned and walked away. OT looked like this many years ago. I had an encounter with what is commonly called Bigfoot. I was a young and spirited lad voyaging across the Veldt. Late one evening while camping along the Vaal, several strange creatures approached our position. Being stalwart fellows of vigorous constitution, we met the peculiar animals with force. Upon our approach, they produced a loud laughing and almost human-like screaming sound. They ran back and forth and in an almost sideways fashion. Then they fought over a buffalo carcass with a pack of lions. It was all very exciting indeed. Yes. So I was going to this new school, and on my first day of school, I went outside to go to a different part of the building when all of a sudden I saw a large hairy figure. I was completely shocked at how much hair this thing had on it. I never really believe in Bigfoot or anything like that, but this thing immediately reminded me of Bigfoot, but with clothes on. I cautiously walked to the side of the building I went to class. Every day I saw the same thing whenever I had to go to class. Then one day we had an assembly, and it was when I realized Bigfoot was a teacher. Hope this answers your question, smile. I'm always interested in the out of the ordinary. I first heard of Bigfoot when I was 6, 1, 2, and I was a very gullible child. I still am. But it's not my encounter, it's my mom's. So as the story goes, I'll start it from the beginning. My mom was driving home from a company she used to work at. Keyword used. Anyway, she was driving home, and while she was driving she had to stop at the stoplight. When she did, she saw it. The Bigfoot. It was tall, blackish brown fur, and glowing eyes. She was scaredless. So scared she called me in the middle of the night so I would stay on the phone with her. Honey, you're gonna have to stay on the phone with mommy, okay? Okay mommy. When are you coming home mommy? Soon baby. Our conversation that night. This was almost 8 years ago. I'm still shaken up when I think of what my mom had to go through. She called the cops but nothing happened. They didn't care. She quit working at Tag a week later. This was at about 11:42, maybe more. Anyway, I hope you guys have a nice day. Take care of yourselves. Yes, in Trustful 2012 by the Cahaba River. I just got off work. The Cahaba River runs behind the buildings. 6 feet tall, matted hair to her feet. I heard the knocking on trees, then a voice from across the Cahaba said, "Lynn Boyd, get out of the tree. Trussville police are on their way because you scared campers miles back up the river." I haven't, but my wife has 2 sisters, a brother and an uncle, who all claim to have seen one multiple times on the Chattahoochee River in extreme North Georgia. I thought it was a big joke at first, but they actually became fighting mad when I started laughing at them. The descriptions they give are fairly convincing. They all lived in the mountains. They had all seen countless bears, but this thing was no bear. What it was, I don't know.